My nightmare husband left me bleeding because his mother was triggered and needed him more. Now, he's grieving and begging me to come back. My mother-in-law told me she wanted my unborn child to call her mom. Her reasoning is, I am more important to my son than you. There's only one thing you can give him that I can't. She also insists that she can have a baby too if she wants. I'm not special for being pregnant. She genuinely believes that I stole her son from her and doesn't deserve to have my child referred to me as a mom. However, when I was 14 weeks, and had a very bad fall where I landed on my belly, mother-in-law put her stuff all over our living room floor to store it here for some reason and I tripped on the mess. I began miscarrying 20 minutes later. She was here when it happened and knew it was happening. I was texting, calling, crying, yelling from the bathroom to get my husband's attention. He came in, saw that I had blood overflowing from my shorts, and said he urgently needed to help his mom. He left. I went through the brunt of miscarriage myself. I held the remains in my hands. I begged him over text to come to the bathroom and help me, to hold me, to go through this with me. He finally came in a half hour later and saw the blood everywhere. I was anemic and couldn't stand anymore. He commented on how it was going to be a lot to clean up, so I tossed off my clothes, climbed into the shower, and bled there. I asked him to buy me large pads and said I'd clean the mess. He came back half an hour later with the pads and kept explaining that his mom needed him. They knew I was miscarrying but she needed help moving things and it was urgent. She was outside when I cleaned up the bathroom and went to the kitchen for food. I was weak and struggling. She didn't make eye contact with me or talk to me at all, probably because she knew she had one. She took my husband away from me during the most traumatic point of my life, and he went willingly. I feel so lost that day. He spent the night at his mom's house and left me alone. I've been alone with his kids from a different relationship. He hasn't texted me and I haven't reached out either. I'm so lost and alone and my heart is broken. I confided in my family and they booked me a ticket home. They were horrified that this had happened, and a little hurt that I didn't reach out when it was happening for help. I packed my things and flew to them. He still hadn't responded to my texts, voicemails, or calls, so I left him a handwritten note. A few days after being with my family, I get a long text from him. He said that he had to stay with his mother for the entire week after I had miscarried in our home because she felt triggered by my miscarriage and needed his emotional support. He argued that she needed him as she and his father are divorced. During this time, he didn't want to bring me up to further cause her distress, so he had no contact with me for a week. He said he thought I was strong enough to wait for him. He thinks I've overreacted by flying home. He wants me to come home. I prepared for his shitty excuse and didn't let him manipulate me. I told him it was medical neglect during a crisis, child abandonment of his kids, my stepkids, who were supposed to be under his care, and abandonment. I could have died and was very weak when I had checked into the hospital. I was even weak when I left. I told him I needed space to heal. My ex said he was grieving and in shock. Things didn't pan out properly because he couldn't comprehend what was happening at the moment. He reacted poorly and regrets it. He said I left him grieving alone and chose to suffer alone too. I was finally getting emotional support from my family and was in a safe place. He said that he was her only son, and he had to help her. I reminded him that he was my only husband and I needed him. The miscarriage was happening to me, not her. He asked me if we were still good. Absolutely not. I was blunt and told him I didn't see our relationship repairing after what he did. His actions will haunt me for years. I cry myself to sleep every night. I miss my baby and marriage. Both of them died the same day. He is upset. He cried and told me I was being overly emotional because of the loss, that I wasn't in my right mind, and said he'd fly out to see me and bring me home. I put my parents on the phone and let them chew him out. I don't know what they said, but he hasn't called since. He's texted a few times but I haven't responded. My parents told him off when he first called and told him not to contact me again. He has since sent me lots of texts and voicemails. They alternate between reminding me of good memories, blaming me for what happened, being angry at me for not responding, and apologizing. He's posted on social media saying he misses me and is waiting for me to come home. The post insinuates an LDR and not that we aren't together. A week ago, a neighbor recognized him waiting outside our home and called the police. He left before they came. It made me so anxious and afraid. I am always worried that he'll be outside and peek through my window to make sure he's not. My dad has a lawyer ready to help me with the divorce process.